Alright, we're jumping into a little fighting game multiverse theory. Let's take Sub-Zero, one of the two most popular Mortal Kombat characters of all time, and remove him from MK and drop him into the world of Street Fighter. This may also accidentally lead to more characters being included as well.
Now, find a new rival.
Okay, so we're making a Capcom Kuai Yang. Just like other Street Fighter transplants I've done, we need to figure out which game fits best for the second Sub-Zero. Out of all Street Fighter games, the perfect fit in my mind is Street Fighter 3, most specifically Third Strike. Out of all Street Fighter games, Third Strike had the most supernatural, mystical, and elemental fighters that I can think of off the top of my head. Yes, we do know other games had them as well, but Third Strike's looked and felt way different to this very day than any other Street Fighter games. But this also seems like a good decision just simply because that game had some of the most fluid animation ever seen in a Street Fighter game, and it would be perfect to see the icy movements and freeze frames similar to Gil's in this game for Sub-Zero. By the way, more on him later. So let's get started on his look. For his appearance to transition from what he already looks like in NetherRealm games to what a Capcom design would be for him, the first thing I needed to do was to think simply. Capcom does have a history of ninja-inspired designs, and I wanted to apply that to Sub-Zero using very key inspirations. Strider, Ibuki, and the MK1 and MK3 Sub-Zero looks were the ones that I felt like would be perfect for a Street Fighter game. Also a bit of his MKX ones, but I made it a point not to design him with any weapons, but I'll explain specifically why I chose to do that when I break down his moveset. For his idol stance, I took some of his previous MK idols and exaggerated them more for Third Strike. I just think he needs to look like he's ready to jump, slide, or freeze at a moment's notice. So a very leaning, a slightly off balance yet still kinda in control pose was very important to me. He needed to look like he's always ready and quick to start moving. I also had to make a compromise because Kuai Yang has had so many maskless and hoodless designs that I chose to just simply roll with the hoodless one here. I don't know, Man Bun Sub-Zero actually fits a lot better in Street Fighter than it does in Mortal Kombat, at least in my mind. And his color palette was kept at the traditional black and blue Sub-Zero looks. Because it's Street Fighter, I almost wanted to sort of toy with multiple blues instead of looking black. But I still kind of want this character to slightly read the Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero still, at least on sight for the sake of doing this challenge. Also, the blue stands out more against the black. And there are surprisingly not a lot of blue characters in Street Fighter 3 that you would think of, outside of Chun-Li and Gil, and maybe I guess Akuma. So this is the scarred Street Fighter version of Kuai Yang Sub-Zero. Now to discuss what he play like. For his moveset, I think I'm making this slightly more complicated than it needs to be. Being honest, I don't doubt that you could take the special moves of Sub-Zero and just apply them to Street Fighter and call it a day, but to a certain extent that's changing a bit of the mechanics of how some moves function in Street Fighter, and he would stand out and be completely different but in a way that doesn't fit the game. So if we're gonna do this what if FGC multiverse, we're gonna be applying a bit of logic to his moves, as ridiculous as that sounds. Starting with the freeze move, I feel like it is a must to have some sort of freezing mechanic to Sub-Zero's character. This is kinda obvious, but nobody said it had to specifically be his ice ball. I would actually make his ice ball a simple projectile, almost like a faster Kikoken, that's like a quarter circle forward punch. What I would rather do for a Street Fighter Sub-Zero is create a dash grab mechanic, this is gonna sound crazy, that functions as both his freeze and his clone move. So, for example, a down forward punch and Sub-Zero lunges at you and freezes you on a hit, but down back punch and he hops backwards and freezes himself, which serves as a temporary armor and possibly its own parry or counter. The more I think about it, this sounds like a completely broken mechanic. But I'm a Sub-Zero fan, so I'm rolling with it anyways. I would also maintain his slide, though I don't think it would need to be almost full screen like the MK11 slide, unless you performed it with a heavy kick, I guess. And I think I'd even make that slide heavily punishable on block. Can't have him going too crazy. Which, by the way, I mentioned earlier how I didn't give Sub-Zero any weapons in his actual design. That's because I got an idea from the MK2 remix that sort of gave Sub-Zero a rising uppercut anti-air that he did not have in the original Mortal Kombat 2. I thought he should have something similar here, but almost animated like he's creating some sort of ice sword of some kind, giving him a forward down forward punch, which, as I say that out loud, it would make his button inputs kinda dicey, but I guess that would force precision on anybody who decided to play with him. Just thinking about tools to give a beastly fun version of Sub-Zero in Street Fighter is really all that I'm asking here. Wait a second. You tell me, did what I just come up with qualify Sub-Zero as being a Shado or not? I don't think it does, but I'm not sure. Anyways, now for his lore and stage design.
Sub-Zero wins.
Personally, I figured an ice temple somewhere in China, almost like something that may have been carved out of a glacier, would be perfect for Sub-Zero and the Capcom Lin Kuei. Admittedly, I did use AI to come up with the stage design for me. I specifically asked for torches to be present in the design, at least along the walls. What you see on the screen is what it came up with, and I know logically torches don't make sense for this environment and what I'm going for here, but that's okay. Visually in my mind, the reason why I asked for torches of some kind was just to have fire and that contrast of colors somewhere in the ice-covered environment. I figured that would be perfect for like the brightness and the colors of Third Strike. And Mortal Kombat is guilty of this as well, of having these icy environments with torches and flames everywhere. Now for his backstory. I would take a bit of his MK2 story and a whole lot of his MK3 one and use those. The idea of the Lin Kuei being warriors, but a select few of them possessing supernatural abilities sounds alright. Then Kuai Yang having Chiromancer abilities from his ancestors sort of keeps him on par with where his Mortal Kombat story was as well. However, the problems would arise when the Lin Kuei Grandmaster starts mingling with Shado research and begins to cyberize the clan, also creating a loose connection with the Shado dolls as well. This also leaves the potential option of recreating Cyrax and Sector as females as they were in Mortal Kombat 1 or as males as they've been in every other game. So Sub-Zero also recognizes Gil's engineered beings in the creations of the Illuminati. It's crazy that that's a Street Fighter lore reference, by the way. And Sub-Zero takes a look at Gil's manipulation of elemental powers, all the Shado nonsense, and the Lin Kuei's Grandmaster, and looks to put a stop to it all, specifically gaining his clan back. This creates immediate rivals of his own clan, Gil, Necro, and 12, and possibly even Urien too, because why not? Now, what would also be interesting is a potential friendly rivalry with Ibuki, seeing as that they would be Street Fighter's resident ninja at this point. Maybe Ibuki in some way, shape, form, or fashion is inspired by Sub-Zero's fighting ability, or maybe she wants to study his fighting style on her own. Who knows? I alluded earlier to the fact that with a backstory like this, Sub-Zero's MK3 lore would be blended in almost perfect with Street Fighter's timelines, but it would also open the door for other characters as well. Cyrax, Sector, Smoke, and as shown by the ending I made earlier, Bi-Han as Noob Saibot could all be characters that I later enter into Third Strike, or maybe even Street Fighter 6's stories as well. The idea of Sub-Zero versus Noob Saibot, brother versus brother, in a Street Fighter game actually does sound kinda crazy. But does this all make sense for Sub-Zero's existence in Street Fighter? Does he seem like he's more of an original Capcom character this way? Let me know. In any event, like, comment, subscribe, and let me know if there's any crossover fighting game characters that you think would be interesting. But anyways, you all have a good one, and I'm out.
Get it on that selector, make it first pick. Get it on that 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Get it on that choose and pick the best one. Get it on that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get it on that selector, make it first pick. Get it on that 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Get it on that choose and pick the best one. Get it on that